I think in Tan Sri Muhyiddin's new cabinet, it's very likely that the Deputy Prime Minister's post is going to go to UMNO. This is because UMNO is the party, I think, with the most number of seats in the new coalition. And of course, UMNO would also demand some of the most senior cabinet seats, such as, for example, Minister of Finance, the MITI Minister, and so on. Maybe even the defense minister. And then, for example, another party would be the Islamist PAS party. They are, of course, likely to demand for the Minister of Religious Affairs or Minister in the Prime Minister's Department. But if I were them, I would also ask for education and home affairs, so that, for example, I think they would very much like to push their religious agenda, and those ministries would indeed be very instrumental in doing so. Then it will be those East Malaysian parties. They would, of course, like to have the, shall we say, more traditionally East Malaysian ministries, such as the Works Ministry, for example, and various others, such as health and transportations and so on, not to mention the other smaller partners in the coalition, such as MCA, MMIC. Yeah. I think in this country right now there is, of course, a division of opinions as to, for example, there will be voters who are vehemently against this new government because they think that this is a so-called backdoor government. The mandate was not from the previous general election. But those are mainly concentrated in, for example, the Klang Valley, the most progressive voters in the countries, those who are more well-educated and so on. On the other hand, I think you may see a very different opinion in the rural areas because this is a government which is predominantly from one single race, and well, it's going to receive actually a lot of applause from the rural communities. So how to reconcile the opinions, how to reconcile the views, how to reconcile the supports from these two vastly different shall we say, the constituencies will remain the main challenge for this government. Well, of course, those senior UMNO leaders who are facing the trials would like to see their cases being resolved expeditiously, especially with the election of a new government in which UMNO is a coalition member. But I think even in UMNO, there are different opinions in this. I saw today, for example, some other senior leaders in UMNO, they are actually calling for these cases to proceed forward properly. So I think all eyes in these matters. I mean, the people of this country are indeed looking at the new government as to whether they will indeed make sure that these trials would continue to be fair and just, or would they simply terminate these trials? And that, I think, would have a lot to do with the people's confidence towards this government, because if they were to just summarily terminate these trials, then in the eyes of at least many voters, it is rather tantamount to sort of protecting the interests of those who are involved in various scandals. Yeah. I think to make a political comeback, Pakatan Harapan would indeed have to, in a sense, clean house to make sure that the various component parties, the relationship between the various component parties, as well as the interior matters, internal matters of the political parties, component parties, are indeed well taken care of. For example, in PKR, now that Asmin Ali has left, what is left of PKR, they have to do some soul searching, for example, as to whether they will still continue to make the support of Dato Sri Anwar to be the main struggle of their party, or they would like to focus on something else. Number two, within, what is left of the Dr. Mahathir's faction in Bersatu, he will have to also make sure that, what is left for him will indeed still be a viable party, because it will appear that a large portion of the MPs are following Tan Sri Muhyiddin into the new government. So Dr. Mahathir first had to take care of his party, and then second, he really has to take care of his relationship with Anwar Ibrahim. No more of this, whether I'm going to pass on the leadership baton to Anwar, when is Anwar going to take over, and so on. In order to convince people that you are really serious about, being in government again, you really need to tell people whether number one, whether you like to pass on the baton to Anwar, and number two, this time really there must be a firm date. For example, 6 months after I take over the government again, and no longer, for example. Only then, I think, not only the people, would those MPs who would potentially support you be more convinced of your sincerity as well as your viability as a political coalition.